The stock market has gotten very volatile of late, and new investors jumping in with little knowledge about the stock market and little knowledge about the differing cycles that we go through on a macro environment can lose their shirt. We just went through a very long period with a low interest rate environment, which essentially fueled growth stocks to unreasonable multiples. We are not just talking about growth stocks, we are talking about many hundreds of companies that don't even make a profit. That is definitely not my style personally, and not the style that I teach when working with clients. And speaking of that, if you are ever interested in getting investment coaching, then go to my website, russinfinancial.com, to find more information. Whether you are a new investor or a seasoned investor, it always comes back to having strong, diversified ETFs in your portfolio. ETFs stand for Exchange Traded Funds. Think of these as a basket of stocks. I like my entire portfolio to be built with a strong foundation laid by ETFs. If you have seen any of my dividend portfolio update videos, then you know that some of my top holdings are ETFs or index funds. In today's video, we will look at 3 of the best dividend ETFs for those of you looking for dividend growth. With that being said, let's jump into the video. ETFs come in all shapes and sizes. You could have mega cap ETFs, industrial focused ETFs, technology focused ETFs, healthcare focused ETFs, small cap, mid cap, large cap. There are so many different types of ETFs out there, but today we are going to strictly look at dividend focused ETFs. So every stock that'll be within these 3 ETFs not only pay a dividend, but are focused on growing their dividend over the years. But before we begin, do you love free money? If you do, then head down to the description down there where you will see a link to Webull. Right now, they are running a free promotion where you can receive up to 12 free stocks valued up to $30,600 just for signing up for a new account and funding it with any amount of money. Definitely do not let this promotion slip away. It only lasts through the end of the month. All right, now let's take a look at these 3 dividend-focused ETFs. The first top dividend ETF to look at and to consider for your portfolio happens to be my favorite, and that is the Schwab US Dividend ETF, stock ticker SCHD. The Schwab US Dividend ETF is a very broad-based ETF. It has stocks that not only pay a dividend, but you will find them across a number of different industries. One reason I love the diversity in this ETF. Many of these stocks happen to be dividend growth stocks. The ETF doesn't purposely focus strictly on dividend growth. It's really just looking for dividend payers. But as you will see when we take a look in a second at the top 10 holdings and over the ETF's dividend history, you will see that the dividend growth is actually quite strong. But first, let's take a look at performance. Over the past 10 years, on a total return basis, SCHD has actually outperformed the S&P 500, albeit by a slim margin. Over the past 10 years, SCHD has returned 231%, or 23.1 average annual return. The S&P 500, on the other hand, has returned 223%, or 22.3% per year. When building a strong portfolio, it is always great to be focused around the S&P 500. I think an S&P 500 ETF is probably the first ETF that any new investor should focus on. Then branch out into these dividend ETFs or individual stocks if that's the route you want to go. Looking at the chart here, you will see all the sectors that this ETF focuses on. You can see just how broad-based this fund really is. Now let's take a look at the top 10 holdings for SCHD. You will see Pepsi, stock ticker PEP, Texas Instruments, Cisco Systems, the Coca-Cola Company, Amgen, Home Depot, Merck, IBM, Broadcom, and Pfizer. These top 10 positions make up 41% of the entire ETF. The total holdings in this ETF amount to 104 positions. Next, let's take a look at the dividend. The current yield, looking back over the past 12 months, is 3.41%. However, on a forward-looking basis, calculating this off the most recent dividend that was announced, the forward yield is actually closer to 3.9%. Over the past 5 years, SCHD has increased the dividend at an average annual rate of 13.3%, which is some impressive dividend growth. The ETF has also increased the dividend for 9 consecutive years now. There is a ton to like about SCHD. The top 10 holdings are great, the broad diversification that you get is great, and the dividend growth is great. Currently, SCHD is trading very close to its 52-week high, which is one reason why I personally am picking up shares of SCHD to add to my portfolio. The second top dividend-focused ETF to consider for your portfolio is the iShares Dividend Growth ETF, stock ticker DGRO. What we saw with SCHD was broad-based dividend payers. Now they happen to have a lot of dividend growth stocks, but with DGRO, they are focused on dividend growth stocks first and foremost. They are looking for companies that make it a point to increase their dividend each and every year. Now, when you go through all the components and all the holdings of DGRO, you will see that not all of them increase their dividend each and every year, but they consistently at least attempt to, or maybe it's every other year, or they tend to take a year off. But many of the companies that are in this ETF are focused on dividend growth. DGRO was formed back in 2014, so right now there isn't a 10-year performance chart to look at, so instead we will look at an 8-year performance chart. Over the past 8 years, DGRO has returned 126.5%, and when compared to the S&P 500 over those same 5 years, you will see that it slightly outperformed as the S&P 500 came in at 124.2%. Looking at the sector breakdown, you can also see that the fund is well diversified, similar to that of SCHD. Here now we'll take a look at the top 10 positions, and I will also add the 5-year dividend growth rate for each of these positions. Apple has a 5-year dividend growth rate of 9%. Microsoft has a 5-year dividend growth rate of 10%. Johnson & Johnson at 6%. Procter & Gamble at 6%, JP Morgan at 15%, Home Depot with a 5-year dividend growth rate of 17%, Pfizer with a 5-year dividend growth rate of 6%, Coca-Cola at 4%, Merck at 9%, and rounding out the top 10 is Cisco Systems with a 5-year dividend growth rate of 6%. These top 10 positions in DGRO make up 24.35% of the entire fund, and the total amount of positions in the fund altogether is 420. Next, let's take a look at the dividend. The current yield is 2.17% with a 5-year dividend growth rate of 9.2%. The dividend has been increased each and every year since the fund's creation in 2014. The third top dividend growth ETF is the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF, stock ticker VIG. VIG has a very similar strategy to that of DGRO. They are focused on dividend growth. But as we go through the top positions, you will see that things are a little different on the top. DGRO was very tech heavy per se, whereas VIG takes a more conservative approach. Although it does have some growth, you will see some older, more legacy-focused dividend growth stocks. Over the past 10 years, shares of VIG have returned 194%, or an average of 19.4% per year, which has lagged the S&P 500, as we saw earlier, which came in at 223%, or 22.3% per year. Why is this, you might ask? We just looked at 2 dividend-focused ETFs that actually slightly outperformed the S&P 500. Well, what I mentioned a second ago, VIG, although looking for dividend growth, they're also looking for stability. So you won't see as much volatility in something like VIG, is what I believe the strategy that they are looking for. And you will notice this in the top holdings. VIG, similar to the others, is very broad-based in terms of sectors. Now looking at the top 10 holdings, you will find United Healthcare, Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, JP Morgan, Visa, Home Depot, MasterCard, Coca-Cola, and PepsiCo. These top 10 holdings make up nearly 30%, and the total number of holdings in this ETF is 292, so a little bit smaller than that of DGRO. Here's now a look at the dividend stats. The current yield is 1.96% and the 5-year dividend growth rate is 8.4%. The ETF has seen 8 consecutive years of dividend growth. So there you have it, 3 great options that are dividend ETFs focused more on dividend growth. It just so happens to be that the one ETF that doesn't have the name Dividend Growth or Dividend Appreciation in it is actually the fastest growing in terms of the dividend, and that's SCHD. That's my favorite ETF that's out there today. It offers a great dividend, it offers great dividend growth, and stability and diversification to your portfolio. This is one reason I regularly add to my position of SCHD, which I believe right now is a great time to add that ETF. And do not think that you need all 3 of these ETFs, especially the last 2 that we looked at. Those are very similar in many aspects. So maybe look at those top 10 positions and see which one you relate with more if you're trying to decide between one or the other. But in terms of all 3, you know which one I like the best, and that is SCHD. Let me know down in the comments which of these 3 ETFs, or maybe there's another ETF that's dividend focused that you prefer. Also, do not forget to take advantage of that Webull promotion. Free 12 stocks up to $30,600 for opening a new account and depositing any amount of money. An awesome promotion that you don't want to miss. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you could, please hit that like button down below, as that is huge for the growth of this channel and this community. It helps get the word out for all the dividend knowledge that I am trying to spread to new and seasoned investors alike. And if you're interested in investment coaching, go to russinfinancial.com and send me an email where we can set up a free consultation. And again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time. Take care.